There are moments in history when growth is loud, and then there are moments when growth is decisive. India is both loud and decisive. Not the kind built on hype or temporary tailwinds, but the kind that holds steady when the world feels unsteady, when global trade tightens, when inflation rattles economies, when capital hesitates, and yet one country keeps moving forward with unusual calm. That country is India. A decade ago, India was once grouped among the fragile five, economies vulnerable to capital flight, inflation shocks, and policy uncertainty. Today, it stands as the world's fourth largest economy and by every major global measure, the fastest growing major economy. This transition did not happen in a forgiving environment. Yet, India grew. In financial year 2025-26, real GDP growth accelerated beyond expectations, touching over 8% in mid-year quarters, with full-year projections settling around 7.3 to 7.4%. These numbers matter not just because they are high, but because they arrived alongside price stability. Inflation, the silent killer of growth, stayed firmly under control. Retail inflation fell to historic lows in late 2025, with food prices easing sharply and headline inflation remaining far below the RBI's comfort threshold. In a world battling stubborn price pressures, India achieved what many couldn't: growth without overheating. And the roots of this movement go deeper than quarterly data. They run through homes, kitchens, bank accounts, and roads. Over the past decade, governance in India shifted from intent to execution. Crores of families moved into permanent homes, sanitation coverage expanded at a scale unseen anywhere else. Clean cooking fuel replaced smoke-filled kitchens. These were not cosmetic changes, they altered health outcomes, labor participation, and household productivity. At the same time, Digital India rewired how the state interacted with citizens. Aadhaar-based identification, Dhan accounts, and UPI turned welfare delivery into a direct pipeline. Crores of rupees reached beneficiaries without intermediaries, shrinking leakages and restoring trust in public systems. That trust mattered when reforms arrived. GST too came into its own. With next-generation reforms, rate structures were streamlined, refunds became quicker, and technology reduced friction in compliance. What once felt heavy and uncertain gradually turned into a predictable system, giving businesses the confidence to plan, invest, and grow instead of merely coping month to month. Manufacturing followed. India's manufacturing PMI remained firmly in expansion territory month after month. New orders, factory output, and employment stayed resilient even as global demand softened. What appeared elsewhere as slowdown looked in India like recalibration. Behind this momentum stood a clear policy choice: capital expenditure as the backbone of growth. Budget after budget, public investment was defended even when fiscal cautious dominated global thinking. In Budget 2026-27, capital outlay reached historic levels, crossing 12 lakh crore rupees, the highest in a decade, and when support to states is added, effective capital spending crosses 17 lakh crore rupees. New rail corridors to cut transit time, new freight networks lowered industrial costs, urban infrastructure unlocked growth beyond metros. This consistency did something crucial. It pulled private investment back in. When policy stays steady and execution delivers, capital responds. And it did. In Budget 2026-27, defense and manufacturing became parallel engines. Aircraft, naval modernization, and indigenous production saw sustained support, linking national security with job creation and technological depth. Future-facing sectors moved into focus. Semiconductor manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and quantum technologies shifted from aspiration to structured policy frameworks. Agriculture policy evolved too, away from subsistence protection and toward income diversification. High-value crops, fisheries and allied sectors, and AI-driven advisories aim to stabilize rural incomes and reduce volatility, building resilience at the grassroots. From expanding economic opportunities for women to simplifying taxes for middle-class families, the focus has been clear: make growth feel real in everyday life. Education pathways are opening, market access is widening, and women-led enterprises are finding room to scale. At the same time, a simpler tax structure and easier compliance are easing pressure on the middle class, leaving households with greater certainty, more disposable income, and fewer anxieties about the system. Together, these choices are shaping an India that feels calmer, more opportunity-rich, and prepared for the future. Globally, the shift is now acknowledged. International institutes place India at the top of the growth chart among major economies. Under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India didn't zigzag with every global shock. The government picked a direction and stuck with it. Reforms moved forward even when they invited resistance. Investment in infrastructure continued even when cautious dominated global thinking, and economic stability was built deliberately, not left to chance. The result is not a perfect economy, it is a resilient one.